You think a stablecoin is just digital cash. You open your crypto app, you see your balance fixed perfectly at $1, and you hit send. It feels so safe, right? But what if that $1 actually depends on an intricate, hidden system that you can't even see? Because the truth is, stability isn't guaranteed, it's maintained. What happens when a ripple hits the system, and suddenly everyone tries to redeem their money all at once? And what if the reserves backing that digital dollar aren't actually as liquid as they look? The system is totally stable, right up until it's not. Welcome to today's explainer. We're going to strip away this illusion of decentralized digital cash. We are going to map out the interconnected, highly engineered layers that work frantically behind the scenes just to hold your digital dollar together when market pressure is at its absolute peak. But before we go any further, a quick note. This explainer on the channel Blocks Bonds Funds is created for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial or investment advice. Section 1. Engineering a digital dollar. Okay, let's dive right into this. To really grasp what's going on, we have to completely shift our mindset away from that clean, surface-level app interface and look at the reality of the blockchain architecture running underneath it all. A stablecoin is not inherently stable. It is an engineered, multi-layered system. Its entire purpose in life is to desperately maintain price parity with a fiat currency, like the US dollar. And to pull this off, it relies on this incredibly delicate balancing act of active market arbitrage, collateral reserves, and continuous, unbroken liquidity. Basically, stability is an active, fragile state. It's a verb, not a noun. Now, there are basically two dominant ways developers try to build this illusion of stability. On one side, we've got fiat-backed models. Think of coins like USDC. These rely on centralized, traditional reserves. We're talking actual cash or US treasuries sitting in a bank account somewhere in the real world. On the exact opposite side, we have algorithmic models, like the infamous Terra USD or UST. These try to hold their peg purely through financial engineering. They use endogenous crypto tokens and smart contract incentives rather than external hard assets. And, as we'll see in a minute, these completely different designs lead to entirely different and honestly sometimes catastrophic failure modes. So how is this peg actually held together? Think of it like a pipeline. Step 1, you have the users trading the token on secondary markets. Step 2, you have the off-chain custodial reserves and the redemption pipelines. And step 3, the independent arbitrageurs. This part is absolutely crucial. When the price wavers, let's say it drops to 99 cents, the whole system relies on these independent arbitrageurs to sweep in, buy it up on the cheap, and redeem it for a full dollar with the issuer. They pocket the penny, and the price is restored. But here's the kicker. These arbitrageurs are independent actors. They have absolutely zero legal obligation to jump in and save the system during a panic. Section 2. When the peg breaks. So what happens when these highly engineered layers face extreme panic and the liquidity just suddenly drains from the system? Well, to understand the sheer scale of the risk here, just look at this number. $40 billion. That is the amount of market value completely, literally erased from existence during the collapse of the algorithmic stablecoin Terra Luna back in May 2022. It wasn't some slow, gradual decline. It was a sudden, violent evaporation of wealth. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're talking about. The Terra USD peg deviation held perfectly steady for months. Everything looked absolutely fine. And then suddenly, the floor just fell out. We are talking about an extreme 94.3% collapse. This right here is what we call an algorithmic death spiral. See, the system was designed so that if USD lost its peg, the protocol would automatically mint more of its sister token, Luna, to absorb the shock. But when market confidence completely evaporated, expanding that token supply completely failed to restore demand. It just created massive hyperinflation. Let's actually map out the exact timeline of that cascading failure. It started with the Anchor protocol, which was subsidizing this massive, totally unsustainable 20% yield just to attract users to deposit their UST. But when the broader market got shaky, confidence eroded, and a massive surge of redemptions hit the system, The algorithmic mechanism kicked in right on cue, minting an infinite supply of Luna in this desperate bid to save the peg. But the panic was just too great. The reflexive loop of panic selling destroyed the entire system in a matter of days, breaking the peg permanently. The system relied entirely on market psychology, and when that psychology flipped, the math just couldn't save it. But hey, let's not just pick on the algorithmic coins. What about the fiat-backed stablecoins? The ones that are supposed to be the really safe bets? Well, during the Silicon Valley Bank collapse in March 2023, $3.3 billion in cash reserves backing the USDC stablecoin suddenly became completely stranded. During that weekend panic, the supposedly rock-solid USDC actually dropped down to 88 cents on the dollar. Why did that happen? Because even a fully backed fiat token can depeg if off-chain counterparty risk causes market panic. The primary redemption window at Circle, the issuer of USDC, was shut down over the weekend because traditional banks were closed. So users couldn't redeem their tokens for the underlying cash, which caused massive panic selling on secondary crypto exchanges, driving the price way down. It's a stark reminder that a stablecoin is literally only as stable as the banking infrastructure holding its reserves. Section 3. Invisible off-chain risks. Okay, so we've talked about algorithmic flaws in traditional banking failures, but there are actually vulnerabilities that bypass Layer 1 and Layer 2 on-chain security entirely. I really want you to think about this question for a moment. What happens when the off-chain system betrays the on-chain code? We trust these decentralized networks because, the code is law. But what if the centralized cloud infrastructure that actually governs these protocols gets breached? Let's look at the Resolve protocol exploit from March 2026. This was an absolute masterclass in exploiting off-chain trust. The attackers started off by depositing a relatively small amount, just $100,000 in USDC. But they had managed to compromise Resolve's Amazon Web Services key management system. Basically, they got their hands on the privileged signing key. And with that single key, they artificially authorized the minting of 80 million entirely unbacked tokens. And honestly, the wildest part about this whole thing, the smart contracts functioned exactly as intended. The code didn't have an on-chain maximum limit check, it just blindly trusted the off-chain signature. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the final payout for that exploit, $23 million. That is the total value the attacker successfully extracted. They just swapped all those unbacked USR tokens for roughly 11,400 Ethereum before anyone even realized what was happening. As a result, the stablecoin's peg collapsed by 80%, plummeting all the way down to 20 cents. It just goes to show that over-reliance on centralized off-chain servers can instantly ruin a supposedly decentralized stablecoin. Section 4. Conditions for true stability. So, pulling the camera back to look at the system as a whole, what are the metrics that actually matter? According to the data, stability requires constant, coordinated behavior to survive any kind of shock. And there are actually very clear early warning signs before systemic failure hits. We look for sudden price drops below the $1 peg, which is a huge red flag that the arbitrage loop is failing. We look for huge, unnatural spikes in trading volume, signaling a massive flight to safety. We look for rapid declines in the value of the supporting collateral, and perhaps most importantly, we look out for weak governance and unclear reserve audits. If you can't verify the reserves, the trust simply evaporates. And in this ecosystem, trust is literally the only thing preventing a bank run. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. A stable coin holds value not because it is inherently stable, but because the incredibly complex system supporting it continues to function under immense stress. Stability isn't guaranteed. It depends on conditions, and those conditions can break. The next time you see that clean, perfect $1 in your digital wallet, ask yourself, what invisible layers are currently fighting to keep it there? Thank you so much for tuning into this explainer on blocks, bonds, funds, and remember to always keep questioning the systems beneath the surface.